Hi Tony, hi Jay.
Hi,
Hey,
Edith.
how you doing?
I'm
Thanks for getting us
good.
in.
Nice to see you again, Tony.
Yeah,
We
you too.
did a lovely little chat out at Disney.
Yeah, I remember.
Couple of years ago now,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, around Poor Things sometime. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm not there in person.
No
We
worries.
got our anyway, I won't get into that and waste my time. Listen, thank you for the brilliant experience of seeing your film. I properly just came out with sore cheeks from laughing
Oh,
Oh,
and
great.
good.
it's just yeah, it was great. So great. Did this start with you, Tony, in terms of you being a big fan of the original film or
No, I was a big fan of the original film. I thought it was great, but it really started with Olivia and Benedict wanting to work together.
yeah.
And then Searchlight were kind of looking for what they could do and thought about War of the Roses, and then I started talking to them, but I didn't want to do a remake, and neither did they. But then we had this idea of how to reimagine it as a sort of completely different animal because Danny's film is so brilliant. We were like, let's find our own lane, and then it started there really with that idea of those two. It really was driven by their desire to work together.
It's such an interesting premise, that, isn't it, in terms of people who get on, who go, let's work together. It might not work,
Yeah,
but
well,
That's
true. Yeah,
Jay, that's your job. You've got to keep that in check.
It is true. You have to kind of keep a vibe that, and I think Guillermo del Toro, I was at a Q&A once with him, and he said every film's natural state is to come apart. So everybody's always trying to hold it together. But I will say in this, not just on camera, but off camera too, everyone was cracking each other up all the time. And that actually helps glue us all together sometimes.
And Tony, I guess with having worked with Olivia in the past and just kind of seeing those brilliant and beautiful kind of comedic muscles that she has, as well as the dramatic side of things. You know, she's such a polymath in terms of her abilities. But was that kind of a luxury in terms of you observing things in her that you were like really wanting to kind of lean into within the script side of things?
yeah, I think so. I think I really knew her particularly after The Favourite, and maybe rhythm wise, and also the confidence of she can, as you say, she's a brilliant dramatic actor and a brilliant comic actor, and I knew I wanted to write something that was pretty dark at times about marriage, and that, and also stupidly funny. So, and she's just got that in spades, and I didn't know Benedict that well, but I knew from Patrick Melrose and even Sherlock that he just had this sort of, particularly with language, effortless comedic aspect to him. And so the idea of both of them in this sort of verbal, supercharged kind of vibe seemed like a really good thing to lean into.
Um, in terms of, I don't know how you did it, Jay, in terms of kind of cajoling this kind of like herding sheep, like comedic sheep round a field. They're just, I mean, they're some of the world's best funny people, but getting what you need as a director, but then also giving them that freedom to
Sure.
kind of play both with dialogue, but also physically as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about kind of playing with them, I guess, and navigating that.
Of course, this was a little less improv than usual. I'm usually like, let's just try, go crazy. Tony's script was so good and the actors were so respectful of it that they often just went with his great dialogue. And some of the dialogue is about timing and rhythm, and things that you can't really improv all the time. But when Kate and Andy came in, both in rehearsal and also a little bit on the set, you can't not let them go. And they would try things and we would just keep rolling and they would try more things. And what I like as much as what they're doing is how the other actors are reacting to what they're doing. And when we have them all trapped around the table, some of my favorite footage is watching Chudi Gatwa try to keep it together. He laughs so hard in that shoot that I wasn't sure we would get through it. He's got such a brilliant laugh and such a big sense of humor. But
Yeah.
Kate and Andy kept it all kind of crazy whenever they could.
Just whilst you're talking, I'm kind of internally chuckling away at things that just popped up in my, visual things that pop up in my brain of, even at the gun range with the kind of leg and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It's
Yeah,
just,
that was Kate. I don't know where she got that somehow she felt she should raise her leg to brace Andy while he was shooting. And I love that relationship too, which Tony cooked up. That their relationship is so much about a bond over kind of quirky things like that, and yet they seem sort of doomed. And then I won't tell how it goes, but it surprises you how well their relationship goes along the way. So it was a brilliant parallel to the Benedicta and Olivia relationship.
Even the costumes, even Kate's costume as well, that kind of the sort of slightly tight gilets and things like that. It's like they're all lovely kind of character insights and tell us even more about the characters in a way as well.
P.C. Williams did the costume design, and she came up with so many great things for Kate and also for Olivia's costumes. I love how off-center I never would have called for that. PC and Olivia together, but especially PC came up with that look. Yeah, very quirky.
What about music? Because Tony, did you write music into the script? Because there's a couple of moments. But also, where is that house? I mean, is that a real house? Does someone live in that house?
Well, the sad part
about
the house.
Is it on Airbnb? Is it what?
I know. Well, it was a real house, but it was inside Pinewood Studio. And on the last day, the idea we were tearing it down with, everyone was like, "This, what are we doing? This is like the best house we've been in."
It's the real estate of the mind.
Yeah.
My production designer, Mark Wicker, drew it up early on, way before we got greenlit, because I was trying to tempt him into doing it. And he said, I'm not sure. But I said, come on, that house is an opportunity. And we thought we would find something. We shot it in England. But he ended up just going with the sketches that he had done, just like the character in the story. And then we built it inside in Pinewood, and then we found a beautiful cliff in South Devon and installed that house using visual effects. And so, but everybody wants to live there. So,
I mean, the film company could have made a fortune by sticking it on Airbnb, to be honest. People come and stay in the lot.
Yeah, and then you show up and find out there's only a tent on a cliff.
Yeah.
What about music, though? There's the kind of, is it Napalm Death? We're like playing Napalm Death, and there's those kind of moments within the script sort of thing as well. But when you were writing the script, Tony, did you have kind of specific musical tastes in mind for those characters in particular?
Not really. I have a piece of music. I have a song for every script I write that is tonally. I just play. It's annoying because I write. Scripts take a long time, so I end up listening to the song for like 1,000 times or something. But no, I mean, there were just the bits with Hal, and otherwise it was Jay and those guys working out what the tone. It's a difficult movie to find songs and tonally and all that.
We had a great music supervisor, Maggie Phillips, and we tried a lot of different things, and it didn't come until a little late in the game that we sort of found that sort of country influenced female singer type stuff. And then I will say a big impact on us was my wife had suggested the song Love Hurts. Obviously, it's so thematically and lyrically right for the movie. And we thought we might start the movie with it, but it ended up being in the middle. And I had heard this Turtle song, Happy Together, and I wanted to start the film in a slightly happier place, even though they have a kind of dark love language, that the audience would have a feeling of optimism and not yet know where it was going to go. And Susanna, my wife, who's in the Bangles, recorded both songs. She did Love Hurts with Eric Johnson, and she did Happy Together with Rufus Wainwright. And that became that whole title sequence. And she just said, don't worry, you don't have to use it. And she never pressures me, but it kind of blew our heads open, and it became the sort of opening titles celebration of love. And so you're more rooting for them to stick together through the film, I think, at the beginning. And it was, so Susanna, I really am super grateful to. I'm lucky to be married to somebody who can just contribute to the soundtrack like that.
Yeah, and having her and Rufus together as well, which may never have been something that we get the chance to have that collaboration.
She'd actually done a duet with him on his last album, and I got to see it performed in the Disney Hall with a whole bunch of other really cool people who did duets with him. But I loved Rufus, but I really fell for him off his last album. And so and they did it in our living room. We have just a kind of woody kind of resonant living room, and they came over and just recorded it there and cut to it's like the title sequence song, and it comes back at the end as a call and response. So lucky.
Such a lovely musical bookend to the film.
Yeah.
It's just, it's absolutely gorgeous. Tony, what was the song then that you wrote to for this one?
I really can't even remember, even though I should.
See, we blank. I
blanked
wiped
out the
your
Removed
memory.
No.
it from your brain.
No, but I can't remember. I think it. Well, sometimes
Just
I
say
change
it's Love
halfway.
Hurts and
Yeah,
then
it was Love Hurts. It was,
What about working with Theodore on the score for this as well, whose name I was getting wrong for years until I chatted
Shapiro?
to
Yeah.
the cast for Ben Stiller actually.
Yeah.
And he's like I was like, oh, been saying it wrong for years.
Yeah,
Shapiro,
Teddy
so-
never minds, so you can call him whatever you want. And he goes by Teddy, although his credit is Theodore. I've done a number of films with him now,
Yeah.
starting I think with Dinner for Schmucks, but then Trumbo and Game Change, and he's just he's a mad wizard. And what I love about him is he always comes up with unique instrumentation, and on this one it was the steel drum. He uses the steel drum, which is normally a sort of happy Caribbean sound, as a slightly bent. It's sweet, but it's also bent and ever so slightly dissonant especially when it's laid over on top of piano notes. And
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really cool idea. And then he takes it to some dark places by the end. But Teddy's he's the maestro.
I mean, that Severance theme.
It's amazing,
Like,
right? Yeah.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Chilling, and like you say, like there's a kind of dark undercurrent, even though high and light notes. It's like, oh, it's so clever.
Yeah.
It's so, but yeah, interesting to navigate that the kind of the musical palette for the film in terms of not wanting to give too much away, like you were saying, and because it is so properly gutturally funny at moments.
That's right.
But of kind of navigate that and not overpowering it with music and
Yeah.
not kind of having too much, the music telling you too much.
I love the overture that he came up with that plays over the logos, because you kind of get all the layers. You get the sort of darker tones and even a little bit of the steel drum, but there's this beautiful Wurlitzer organ thing too, which becomes a theme later on. So it's like a really good old proper overture where so much of the soundtrack is introduced. And I think it did help us with tone. It was hard to get the tone right, and the score is always so helpful at getting the subtext and the ironies and even the absurdities sometimes for comedy. So yeah, I've done comedies and drama with him. He can do anything.
Yeah. What do you think it is about this particular story? Not every story or characters can cope with a reinterpretation, for a new generation, but was still kind of being really being inspired, I guess, by the original. What do you think it was about this original film and these characters and these performances that resonated with both of you in terms of wanting to do your own version?
I think the theme of marriage and the theme of relationships, and I think for me, one of the things I loved about the original was just the ending, and just how. And I talked to James Brooks about it, because we had to get, I wanted him to be all right with me writing.
Wow.
And he was like, he said that was just one we got away with. He goes, we kept thinking they'd stop us, and they didn't. And I was like, and he was, but he was great. He's just like, just take it and go do your own thing.
I loved the fact that it stays true to some of the predicament and some of the kind of darker and somewhat tragic progress through it, but that Tony brought something else, which was just that question of how do we ever get together? How do we're all such inherently, lonely people stuck here not knowing anything about each other and not knowing even enough about ourselves sometimes. But you find someone and you try to make a go of it. And particularly with these actors, with Benedict and Olivia, like, oh my God, they never worked together, by the way. This is the first time they've worked together. And you're like, wow, they have something. They can say anything to each other. They can be incredibly, dark and mean even, and still find affection. I was talking about it like that. Sometimes real intimacy can only come through conflict. If you're guarding yourself from conflict all the time, you're not necessarily available. And so conflict and humor too. You're just rooting for them in every way. And then they have fateful evening where everything goes upside down, and then you're going, oh no, how are they gonna keep this together? And that was that question of how are they gonna keep it together. Tony had even in the very first draft I read, it was so magnificent.
I love his he's talking about saying cruel things to each other. The Sally and Rory characters.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is just, I was like, I had to apologize to the person I was sat next to because I think I like spat something out at that particular scene at the dinner table. It's so great. That must be so much fun to write.
Yeah, it was really fun to write, but and I remember being excited about it and showing my best friend who's a writer, and she was like, "Wow," but it's not as fun as when you go on that set and you go, because even we talk about Olivia and Ben and Annie and Kate, but Jamie and Zoe are just two of the best comic actors in the world. So it's even that, having these smaller characters and you bringing in heavyweights like that.
In the previews, the laughter at that moment when Zoe tries to, and I so identified with it because I always envy how much better at banter and how much smarter English people feel. But from her, from her point of view of just thinking that she's got it and she's going to be able to pull it off, and then Jamie, it played as well as anything I've ever seen play in a theater.
Yeah,
it's so fun to hear people explode when that goes off. That dinner scene is something else.
Yeah.
And it was like that though in the script. I mean, we definitely tried to cast the heck out of it, but it was always funny from the get-go.
And Jamie as well in that scene where Benedict's character's talking about the Maritime Museum and he's the jealousy, but it's so brilliantly written. It's just
There's a moment when Tony had Zoe say, "Oh, we always thought you were going to be the one to succeed," and Jamie says, "How? How did you know?" And it's such a weird line, but
so
when
weird.
he plays, it kills. It's such
I think that's what's great. Jamie Demetriou does reads on things that no one else could think of.
I don't know how he got there with that.
Well, listen, we're thrilled with this, but also what the future holds for us as fans of both your works. Whether that be, the Ocean's 11 film or the Meet Back with the Fockers or Cruella. It's like there's just so much there that we all kind of look forward to. You both seem to have so much, kind of in the future there that you're working on. If we were to believe IMDb and the old internet.
Oh yeah, everything you read on the internet is true.
It's true.
So.
True.
It's true.
Yeah.
But no, we're looking for something else to do. So I feel so lucky to get to work with Tony. So I hope there's a lot more of that in the future.
That would be grand.
Last question, and it's a deep one. You've both kind of, in terms of the films that you've worked on, but clearly fans of film. If you could be in the scene of any film, what would it be and why?
Wow. Of any pre-existing film up till now?
I would be weirdly, I would just like to be in the scene with Giancarlo Esposito in Do the Right Thing, where he crosses the street and has this amazing set of dialogue with Spike Lee, which is some of my favourite. I remember in film school they were like, "What's your favourite piece of dialogue?" In fact, I should have told him the other night. And he gives this great answer, which I can't say, but it's just such good dialogue, and I just love the energy of that film. And when I was at film school or whenever I first saw it, I was like, "Oh my God."
That's so cool. The Graduate, I just always go to The Graduate as a film that, to me, was one of those great examples of like, wow, humans are so dysfunctional, but man, it can be entertaining when it's done well. And that final scene at The Graduate when they're both in the bus and they've just Elaine, and they like to just watch that come together. I would like to have seen what Mike Nichols was thinking when he let them do that very, very ambiguous sort of whole journey all in one take. I mean, that was an amazing thing to watch.
Can I show you something?
Ah, bravo. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
The vinyl. It's,
Yeah.
they're releasing it for there's a new kind of anniversary celebration.
really?
So
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's so great.
got 2 copies. I'll send you one each.
Yeah, please. We're in.
It's lovely to chat to you both. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank you.
congratulations. And I look forward to your next collaboration and as much joy as watching that as well. Thank you so much.
Bravo. Thanks.
Thank you.